Well, have you threaded yet? Yeah, Twitter's got a new rival and is gaining traction fast. Meta just released its new app called Threads. It's described as Instagram's text-based conversation app, and it looks a lot like Twitter. Here's how it works. You download the app.
And people are starting to make their way outside of their homes now, getting ready to go on their morning commutes. So what we're seeing outside of Speaker Nancy Pelosi's home right now, still seeing a heavy police presence. San Francisco Police Department, they responded around 2:30 a.m. and they've been here since then. We are also starting to see other agencies here as well. If you look up the hill, I know there are cars in the way, but if you're able to see behind the trees, there are other agencies, including the FBI. Inside of the store, looking to get the gear. Somebody just drove by and said Niners. People are excited.
Developing right now, Governor Gavin Newsom is floating the idea of kidnapping charges against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. This is after migrants were flown to Sacramento. Here's the tweet from Newsom. He tags DeSantis and says, quote, "You small, pathetic man."
The Warriors may be struggling in the Western Conference, but that doesn't mean we don't know how to win and maybe taunt too. We're talking about yesterday's game here.
People who live and work in the area and described hearing something that sounded like an explosion.
Back to you.
Yeah, and Jared, you talked about that snowball effect. We saw how those delays and cancellations on the East Coast had a big effect here in the Bay Area. Even had some people thinking of driving instead of flying. So for anyone driving out today, when do experts say is the best and worst time to travel? This was in the 6th inning. They had someone on second, third base. He drives one into left field there, drives in 2 runs there. He also ends up scoring in this inning as well. But it's not just about his performance. It's the energy. He's clapping for himself as he's running the bases. That is something I feel like we have needed with the team.
I'm going to hurt you back.
You guys, this is fantastic.
But it's already hit.
And Elizabeth was also telling us that, you know, the heat does slow her down, but she does take breaks. That is absolutely essential for this job.
If you were an actor, would you want to do your own stunts?
No.
I would.
I would too.
Yeah.
No,
Like, get into the role.
but-
And it's already a busy morning for our super commuters. We'll tell you how it's looking over at the Altamont Pass.
I think that's one of the biggest things here is you get to meet new people of all walks of life.
And so here's a look at the results. Matt Mahan is leading with 52% of the vote. Cindy Chavez with 48% of the vote.
Gianna, if you are driving on southbound 101, that's where I was at to get here. You are going to start to see some signage that says it is blocked starting at Fair Oaks. Use alternate route.
Someone's dressed up. Amanda, who are we rooting for today?
Well, we know who you are.
Who are we rooting for
We'll
today?
go for San Diego,
We're not
Jocelyn,
allowed to
just
say
for
anything
you.
else. SDSU.
You're just going to interrupt us here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're trying to do a show here. We're trying to do a show here.
Jocelyn,
Shannon, can we please?
At times, it can be actually hard to keep your position on the ground here. So definitely be careful out there as you stop by. If you're getting your morning coffee, like we are getting, or are seeing quite a few people. This is what I mean when it picks up. At times, it'll slow down. Shannon, you're okay. We just want to make sure we're also keeping our positions because our photojournalist Shannon is also holding the camera, so it can be tough at times to really just stand. Well, right now we are inside the SFPD headquarters. As you can see, a lot of us are just getting ready to go into the room where this press conference is set to happen. We've talked a lot about Half Moon Bay in this community. It's a hardworking farm worker community. It's a place where you take kids to the pumpkin patch. A lot of us who grew up in the Bay Area have very special memories in Half Moon Bay, and now this community has been struck by tragedy.
Yeah, Dania, like you were saying, when you learn more about these victims, it starts to hit differently, especially when you say a wife, a mother, somebody who was kind. I also want to ask you, what happens next for the suspect who is under arrest right now? We saw the numbers, we saw the images, but what happens when a family arrives at a city in the U.S. after being processed at the border? What does the first week of life look like for them? Well, there are families arriving here in the Bay Area. This family from Latin America led us into their life during an uncertain time. Paola and her family were released from a processing center with a court date in California. They landed at San Jose Mineta International Airport this month late at night, uncertain where to go next.
Yo aproximadamente eran las 5 de la mañana y yo ver a mis hijos en las sillas tratando de descansar y se me venía la imagen de que en el hogar que nosotros construimos tenía sus camas, tenía sus cosas y yo al verlos así yo empecé a orar.
They had a home in Latin America. As her kids slept, she couldn't help but think of what they had left behind. She and her family were now in an unfamiliar place. They didn't know anyone here.
Y le decía al Señor, Señor, si nos tienes acá es con un propósito, ¿sí? Y guíame, guíame, envíame un ángel para que nos guíe. Yo quiero que mis hijos tengan un lugar, no importa, pero un lugar que pueda descansar al menos por un día. Y Dios no solamente me envió uno, me envió muchos.
She tells me those angels were people who worked at the airport. They gave them food and suitcases and connected them to Amigos de Guadalupe, a nonprofit in San Jose helping families who just got here. In just the last couple of weeks, Jeremy Barus with the nonprofit tells us they've had several families seek out their help.
Hola, ¿cómo estamos?
When they connect with a family, they give them a hotel room for 7 days. Paola and her family let us into where they're staying. Here, it's been a couple of days since they arrived. Paola has just gotten up. She and her husband, Oscar, get breakfast ready for their kids with the food that has been donated to them. Putting chicken into the microwave and serving it on what they have.
¿Y cómo te llamas usted?
Joel.
Joel is the youngest. He likes to watch movies.
Los Minions.
Ah, Minions are his favorite movie.
Paola hopes he can go to school here. Her kids gather around her as she starts their morning prayer, holding on to Joel's hand. They're starting all over here, but she and her husband tell me they had to leave.
Muchas amenazas en contra de la familia.
Wilson Purves is a local immigration attorney with years of experience. He's had many clients seek asylum for a number of reasons.
Well, there are a lot of socioeconomic factors to consider, but typically many applicants decide to come here and seek help because they don't feel safe back home. When we're talking about safety issues, we're referring to organized crime, domestic violence, retaliation because of sexual orientation. There are many factors to consider whenever an applicant seeks help in the U.S.
It's been a long journey for Paola and her family.
Con esto se tapaba uno y se guardaba uno del frío.
Paola and Oscar want to be able to support themselves and their family, but Purves tells us getting a work permit could take some time.
Keep in mind that we need to file the asylum application first, await 180 days, and eventually file the work authorization, which could take also months for being adjudicated. Therefore, it may take up to a year or so for an applicant to actually have a work permit and a social security number after filing the asylum application.
Paola and Oscar want their kids to have the opportunity to reach their goals. Dylan is the oldest and plays soccer.
¿Qué es la primera cosa que les gustaría hacer acá, ya que están acá?
Estudiar.
His younger brother Felipe plays volleyball. He wants to continue that and learn English.
Terminar los estudios y estudiar inglés.
Samuel hopes to finish school and also wants to learn English. Through it all, Paola says some of the most important things for her have been keeping her family together and being in a safe place.
La salud y la tranquilidad no tiene precio.
They're now hoping to build a new life here.
Yeah, and they're just one of many families trying to figure out how to build a new home in a place they just got to. So there's a lot of uncertainty. We met several families, or just talked with a couple of families through Amigos de Guadalupe, but Paola and her family, they let us in a very vulnerable time for them right now. They don't know exactly what's next, but unfortunately, it's a situation that a lot of people are in right now, Gianna.
Well, you see those images from the border with just groups of people out there. And again, this is just one of many families that we're seeing this. And just to hear Paola's story and just to be a mom and how heartbreaking and scary this must be for them and their family. What's next, Jocelyn? I think a lot of people are wondering, now that they're here, the nonprofit's giving them a hotel for 7 days, now what?
Yeah, and we keep using the word uncertainty, but that is what it comes down to. We talked with San Jose's Office of Racial Equity Director last week about this. I asked her if there was housing or resources families could seek. She told me while they are working with the county and nonprofits to figure that out, as of that time, there wasn't. So it's been almost a week since I've talked with her. She hasn't given me an update. I reached out with her to her again yesterday. It was Memorial Day, so of course we are going to stay updated with this one because there are a few families who are getting here to the Bay Area and are